G'day and welcome to the Master Analyser. I'm John Buchanan, I'm your host, as you know, and we're looking into the game between India and Afghanistan. A big thank you again to our stats people, All That Cricket and CricHeroes, who provide many of the graphics that you see through the course of this analysis. And also thank you to our sponsors, Launch Tea, that wonderful children's hitting tea product, Ready, Steady, Go Kids, fantastic business opportunity, franchise opportunity for those people seeking that in India. Adzguru, who do all our marketing and advertising, and of course, ECOLOOM or Ecolook in India, who are providing us with the gift vouchers for our competition, which I will mention later. But look, before we get into the analysis from our special guest, Brad Hogg, let's have a very, very quick look at where India was, at least statistically, prior to the start of this game. So from All That Cricket, here's some really interesting data that we have on India from their first two games of the T20 World Cup, which I think really does give an insight as to where the team was leading into this game. So if we have a quick look at our batting statistics initially, and what we see here is that we've got the opportunity to look at India, Afghanistan against all games in the competition. And then if we take some of the statistical data and see how India's placed, let's look at runs per over, for instance. So we'll see that India track well behind Afghanistan on runs per over, and indeed are tracking behind the tournament statistics. If we look at another indicator, which might be the number of balls per wicket, in other words, if you can face more balls before losing a wicket, that places you in a far better position to score runs. Well, again, India tracking below not only Afghanistan, but again, the whole tournament. And of course, if we look at some of the other statistics that I think are relatively important, this is an indicator of batting where you're scoring 6+ runs per over. And again, India below both Afghanistan and the tournament. Taking that into our batting phases, I think one of the really interesting things here is, as we've always talked about, and it is your power play overs. So we'll see that up here where I'm highlighting, we'll see that from a tournament perspective, 21.225 is the average runs scored in that power play period. We see that Afghanistan is actually at 30.8, which is a really interesting figure. But even more interesting, as we look down to the Indian totals, their average sits again well below 14.2. So it does give some real statistical impetus to the reason why India's batting, or it supports the reasons behind India's batting really letting them down in this tournament so far. We could look at some of the others, but we'll leave that for another time. Let's go to the other side of the equation, which is their bowling. And again, let's take some of the statistics that point to possibly India, both formats, both aspects of their game not being where they wanted leading into this game against Afghanistan. So this is runs per over off a bowler, an average of runs per over in the 20 overs, or the number of overs that the team has bowled. So we see that India are conceding over 8 runs per over on average, whereas the tournament average is at 7.2 and Afghanistan is at 6.2. So India, again, well behind both tournament and even Afghanistan. If we looked at some of the other indicators, and I'll just come down to here, this number is the number of consecutive overs of 5 or under, meaning that if one bowler bowled 5 or under, then the next bowler, the next over bowled 5 or under, then that gives us 1 consecutive over. So let's see how they're all placed. And here again, we see India really trailing both Afghanistan. So here's India. They've only managed to do this on 9% of the occasions that they have bowled. In terms of all the overs that they've bowled, they've only managed 9% of the deliveries of their overs to be consecutive 5 or under, whereas Afghanistan are sitting on 16, so almost double, but definitely double is the tournament average. So again, India on that number well behind in their bowling statistics. And then this concept of lucky wicket, I think, is a really important one because this almost relates to matchups. So in other words, when a captain changes the bowling person to bring on a new bowler, that indicates that the captain or the team have done their homework and say, well, this particular bowler in these circumstances is the best bowler to give us a chance of either taking wickets or reducing the run rate. And so the concept of lucky wicket is every time in one of those bowling over changes, in other words, the first over of your spell, if you pick up a wicket, we've termed that lucky wicket. So we'll see here, again, India have yet to do so coming into this game. They have yet to make a bowling change which has been successful immediately in that over. However, on 45%, nearly 50% of the time that Afghanistan have made their bowling change, they've picked up a wicket in that over. Whereas in tournament play, the overall game percentage is over 50%. So again, India struggling in that regard. And finally, in the bowling phases, again, we would look at, let's look at that power play again. We will see that from the tournament where I'm highlighting now, that in the first 6 overs, as we saw before, there's an average of 21.25 runs being scored. For Afghanistan, though, they're conceding 11.56 in that power play. And when we look at India, and obviously they've had 2 very, very difficult games, Pakistan and New Zealand, they're conceding 87 runs on average. So pretty damning statistics, if we like, from the first 2 games. So where is that going to place India coming into this game against Afghanistan? A must-win game. So here we are. Let's have a quick look at the scoreboards. And of course, what India have done is really turned their statistics that we saw coming into this scoreboard analysis, coming into this game, right around. It's just been, I guess, a performance that we were all expecting from India, albeit that Afghanistan have been weakened a little by the fact that they don't have their frontline spinner in Mujib, and therefore having to bowl Rashid possibly at a later time than what they would like. However, let's have a quick look at the scoreboards and see how India have gone about their game. And we'll see that Afghanistan won the toss, as everybody has been doing, and sending the opposition into bat. It often seems that with the dew at night, it making the game easier to retrieve or to win at the back end. Now, that number has been turned around a little bit in the last couple of games, but overall, that would be the way the teams have gone about their cricket so far. So India sent in, and what a partnership from Rahul and Sharma. Great to see them at the top of the order again. And so they put together 140, and before Rohit was dismissed in the 15th over. Rohit having made an unbelievable 74 from 47 with 8 fours, 3 sixes. He looked at scoring a lot of his runs through the offside, where is his strength, about 56% of his runs coming offside, and a real liking for that mid-wicket area where another 26% of his runs had come from. And this is why they make a good partnership, because Rahul at the other end, who made a fine 69 from 48 with 6 fours and 2 sixes, actually scored 75% of his runs through the onside. So we have 2 players who really do complement each other in terms of being able to exploit the ground, the whole ground, so to speak. And then very, very good strategy from Kohli to move both Pant and Pandya into the finishing role. So that partnership came together in the 17th over at 2 for 147, and some 27 balls later, they've added a further 63 runs with Pant 27 off 13 and Hardik Pandya 36 from 13. So a terrific score, 53 in the power play for no wickets, none for 85 at the 10 over mark, and finished up at 2 for 210. Fantastic score of the tournament so far, and really set Afghanistan an incredibly difficult task. Afghanistan tried to go about their business reasonably well. However, Shami struck in the 3rd over, Bumrah in the 4th over, and at the power play mark, they were 2 for 47. And from then on, we saw the introduction of one of the selection changes that India had made, which was where India made one of their interesting selection changes with Ravi Ashwin coming in for Chakravarti. So he then filled in that role that we've seen across a number of teams and throughout the tournament, that a spinner will come on from 8, 10, 12 and 14 or thereabouts and really put the brakes on the particular batting innings and also be taking wickets. So Ashwin came into the game in the 8th over and finished up with 4 overs, 2 for 14. And again, that really set a seal on the game, taking Afghanistan from 2 for 47, 4 for 61 at the 10 over mark. And eventually their 20 over score reached 7 for 144. So just an emphatic win by India, and probably one that they needed, their Indian supporters needed, the tournament needed. And is it too late? Time will tell. So, joined again by our expert analyst, Brad Hogg, from that beautiful state in Western Australia. And who's bringing Brad Hogg to us today? Well, it's that wonderful product called Ready, Steady, Go Kids. Physical education program, growth development program, sports development program for young children, 1.5 to 6 years old. Designed in Australia by occupational therapists, physiotherapists, wonderful programs in about 200 centres around Australia and in 15 countries around the world. And of course, it's coming to India. So if you want to be part of that Ready, Steady, Go family of India, go to the link and you'll find where to look for becoming a franchise owner, enjoying a business opportunity in India and bringing great physical development and health benefits to young children. So we look forward to doing that. But speaking of health benefits and physical benefits, and a person who's definitely benefited from a wonderful childhood, and that's Brad Hogg, and we're here to talk about the game last night. Well, there you go. For me, one word, emphatic. What do you think, Brad?
Yeah, look, I think if you look at it, teams batting second in this particular tournament are always winning the games, apart from the last couple of days. But you've got to remember that India are playing Afghanistan, probably haven't got as dominant a bowling attack as New Zealand and Pakistan that they played before. New Zealand, before the game before, were playing Scotland, and they batted first and won the game. And then you look at the previous games the day before as well. I think England against Sri Lanka, that was a better bowling attack, but it was one man that did that. That was Joss Butler. But what I've seen in these last couple of games is teams not going too hard in the power play. What I mean by that is they're rotating the strike, and what that's doing, creating pressure on the bowlers, and then all of a sudden there's there's boundary balls being delivered to them, which they can pick off easily. So in the lead-up games to the last couple of games, the team batting first had a lot more dot balls in the power play than the team batting second, and that's where the game had been won and lost. I'm looking at the teams now; they're changing their strategy and not worried about the scoreboard, not worried about putting extra runs on, because they know there's advantage of batting second. So they're just setting up the game to power away at the back end.
Yeah, definitely. And I think to help that, of course, were the selections of the Indian team this time. Now, they made a couple of changes, obviously, with Ashwin coming in for Chakravarti and Yadav coming back in for Ishan. However, I think the key selection was to reunite the opening pair, which I think you discussed last time we were talking, Rahul and Sharma, and what a partnership they put together. 114 dismissed in the 15th over, but really set a huge platform. And as you say, they were, 53 at the power play, and really then began to accelerate their innings from there on. So I think selections in that regard played a really important role in India posting that total.
Yeah, definitely. But I